All right. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Councilmember Jason Dozier, Chair of the Community Development and Human Services Committee. And today is Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. I call this meeting of October 10th meeting to order. I am joined by my colleagues to my right, Councilmember Antonio Lewis, to my left, Council Members Jason Winston and Byron D. Amos. That constitutes a quorum. The first item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Colleagues, before I accept the motion to adopt the agenda, for one of our legislative items, item number 12, which is Resolution 23-R-4249. We're going to try to take that as soon as we're done with presentation, so versus waiting until we get to that part of the agenda. So that's the only modification we'll make to that when we get to it. So with that, I'll go ahead and move to adopt the agenda. Second. There's a second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, the motion to adopt the agenda carries 4 yeas, 0 nays. That takes us to approval of minutes. I'll go ahead and move to approve minutes. Is there a second? Second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. And the vote is closed.
Minutes are approved, 4 yeas, 0 nays. That takes us to public comment. Do we have anyone sign up for public comment?
There are 8 people.
We have 8 people. I will say on my screen it shows just speaker 1, speaker 2. If there's names, I'm happy to read off the. All right, we'll just go as they populate. The first is Coach Tim Wynn. Coach Wynn, if you could come to the podium, you'll have 3 minutes. And roughly the 30-second mark, I'll try to gently let you know you're coming up on time. But you have 3 minutes. Thanks for joining us today.
How you all doing? I'm Tim Wynn, native Atlanta. Went to elementary school, Harper Elementary. Middle school, went to Blair Village, Georgia, Kentucky College. I retired with the city of Atlanta, the police department and correction. Hey, I'm here for a serious reason with the legendary Coach Rambo. I have known Coach Rambo in the late 70s. In 1980, I began volunteer coaching, and all they told me was, you want to be a good coach, you got to beat Coach Rambo and Coach Walker. As a young man out of college, I started following Coach Rambo and Coach Walker. I'd be behind them, sneak at the practice, taking notes. They said, son, you want to be a good coach, you need, this is the recipe: the discipline, the condition, instruction, the fundamental, and repetition. Coach Rambo had won many championships and many state championships, but most importantly, he come out coach in a community, Dixie Hill, Anderson Park. And when you hear that name, all you think of is Coach Rambo. All the kids know him, these older guys now. Here, the left, the Coach Rambo took the time and they went on to high school, went on to college, some went on to pro and having productive life. We know there's 4 heads on Mount Rushmore, but there's 3 heads in the youth football. That's Coach Rambo, Coach Walker, and you're looking at him, Coach Tim. I told Coach Walker, Coach Rambo, one day we was gonna walk in or drive in Anderson Park, and we was gonna see that name, Coach Rambo. He hugged me and just brought tears to my eyes. And I saying this, those are great times, and why not bless this man with the heart, with the blood, sweat, and tears that he sacrificed in that community for over probably 6 decades or better. You know, so, and this is what we need. These kids know and have been out in the city and walk forward, and they know Coach Rambo, and his name will live on. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Tony. Councilman Lewis.
And Coach Tim Wynn, you turned around. I know you one of the three head honchos in the city of Atlanta, and we truly appreciate how you poured into youth in my community. We know that you live on the street. I grew up on the street that you live on, and so I've had the impact of having you in my life since I was born. And so I want to say I appreciate you coming down here today. I know every time you come down here for business. You're a busy man. You probably got about 500 kids in your program right now. And so I appreciate you for coming down today, and I fully heard you. I can't wait. I can walk into your park in my district. I walk into your park too. Thank you.
And thank you. And let me be able to walk in there and drive in. I don't want to be like my play daddy. He wasn't able to see this.
And I'll tell you what he means by that. What he's saying is, why they gotta, your words, right? You say, why we gotta die to talk about the stuff we did in our community? We live in the one city that all the streets in our city, they named after people we know. Like, they legit, like I know on Cleveland Avenue, Blairville, Pool Creek, something's supposed to be standing for Tim Wynn because you touched all of the boys. So I understand full out what you're saying, and I see the passion in your eyes. So thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lewis, and thank you, Coach Wynn. All right, our next speaker is Tony Rambo. If you could come to the microphone. I do want to acknowledge we've been joined by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland. Ms. Rambo, likewise, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. To the City Council and to the people in attendance, or the citizens in attendance, I'm sorry. I am Tony Rambo, and yes, Charles Rambo is my father, but I'm not speaking to this City Council as a son. I'm speaking to the City Council as a player and a coach whose life was impacted by my father. And I witnessed his growth and development, and I witnessed the growth and development of Dixie Hill. He came from humble beginnings in Tallahassee, Florida. And when I say humble beginnings, he was on his own at 14 years old. His story it should be a made-for-TV movie. And he came here and built a life for us here in the southwest side of town. Dixie Hill was not a great place to be, but that's where he was. He developed young men. He developed that community. He developed that recreation center. We spent time as a family. He not only worked with the kids, worked with middle-aged, senior citizens before working with senior citizens was popular. Not only on the football field, in the community. He had cheerleaders. When Little League teams didn't have cheerleaders, we had the Anderson Park Wolvettes. He worked with track and field when that was not popular. I'm a direct result of his two-legged athletics, but I also graduated with honors from Thurl High School, and I also graduated from the University of South Carolina with a scholarship in track and football, and I lettered in both sports. And I came back to Atlanta to work on the South Side. I'm a retired teacher now, but I was the head football coach at Thurl High School, and I'm currently retired, but I'm still working at Best. And it's not so much as trying to develop the wins. He wanted to develop good citizens, good fathers, and good mothers. And I feel like because of what he did for the Dixie Hill community, my family would appreciate your consideration in naming that Anderson Park for my father. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Rambo. All right. No, I was just saying thank you for your time. Our next speaker is Henry Jordan. And Ms. Jordan, once again, you'll have 3 minutes.
Came down to the Spirit of God, everyone that's here. But he answered one of them and said, Friend, I do thee no wrong. Didst not thou grieve with me for a penny? Matthew 20, chapter 13, verse. However, he reminded them that he had been just in paying them what they borrowed for. I need more power to obey Jesus. My desire is to miss hell and inherit everlasting life. James Swift is asking for hell by his deeds. And I will give them an heart to know me, that I am the Lord, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God. For they shall return unto me with their whole heart. Jeremiah 24th chapter 7th verse. Although this prophecy has provisional application for returning exiles in the 6th century BC, it looks far beyond to Israel's ultimate regathering under the terms of the new covenant. James do not desire to return to Jesus. Neither their silver nor their gold should be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath. But the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy. For he shall make even a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land. Zephaniah 1st chapter 18th verse. Although man cannot comprehend God's work nor predict success, he needs to be involved in life's activity and trust God for the results. When you seek to kill me, then you ask to be killed. And they that did eat of the loaves were about 5,000 men. Mark 6 chapter 44th verse. But they were all filled, and there was an excess of food remaining. And the number does not include women and children. Jesus fed 5,000 men plus women and children with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes, and all were filled. Then plus there were leftovers. Do we need miracles like this now? Are we willing to pay this price for this kind of miracle? If you don't appreciate Christ's miracle, you fight against his miracle for you. And I had that dream about the homeless called on Jesus, has business plan for the deliverance of his people. God gave it to them because they are low. People you want to bring up. Gave them a plan to fight, for a protection plan for us. Because people look over the homeless people, but Christ don't look over like flesh do. Christ knows what he want to use them for. And I thank Christ for loving us more than we love ourselves, because he sees what's ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. All right, for our next speaker, I'm showing speaker 4 on the list. Just 1 second. Oh, there it is. Dean Broughton. Mr. Broughton, thank you for coming today. You got 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Council. I met Coach Rambo when I started working in Parks and Recreation in the 70s, and he was a man who I wanted to emulate. He was a man who demanded excellence out of his young people. Not only did he want excellence on the field, but he wanted excellence in life. He wanted them to excel in life. So I come today to say thank you to Councilman Byron Ammons for bringing this forth, and I hope that y'all will pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Broughton. Our next speaker is Coach Walker. Coach Walker, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Tim. You know, it's an honor. It was a pleasure just to be here to talk about my best friend. Met Coach Rambo in 1966. Coach Rambo was an ordinary person. He was extraordinary. We talk about him as a coach. but he was a man that wanted to make people be better. When he got through with it, he wanted you to be a better person. He didn't only work in the Dixie Hill, Allison Park community, he worked throughout the city of Atlanta. He worked as a recreation leader, worked as a director, worked as a supervisor. He worked in the Ben Hill community. He worked in the Young Street community. Because when I left Mosley Park, he went with me over to Butler Park to help establish the program there. He lived in the Ben Hill community. You would have thought that he worked at Ben Hill Recreation Center too, because he helped build our program there in our community in Ben Hill, in his own community. To show you what kind of man he was the director in Allison Park, but he sent his son to play ball up there with me at Ben Hill. He sent his daughter up there at our summer camp to show you what kind of person he was. Which means that he wasn't just for himself, he was for the whole community. That's what I loved about him. My wife passed almost 5 years ago. It was Coach Rambo and Tim Wynn who helped me to get through. They called me every day. And I miss Coach today. Because he usually called me, if he didn't call me every day, he called me every week. And we would talk about football, we would talk about development of our people, and he had become an ordained minister. And we would talk about the day when we weren't gonna be here. And he said to me, he said, Coach, because I said, I don't understand why they hadn't done anything for you. He said, Coach said, when I'm gone, said they'll remember me. So counsel, and making my speech short, if you could do one thing, I remember a person telling the master, said, when you go in your Father's kingdom, said, remember me. So today, I would like to remember Mr. Charles Rambo and do something at Allison Park. Do something. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Coach Walker. Our next speaker is Jim Martin. Jim, good to see you. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, Jim Martin, 764 Verner Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. I am the chairman of Neighborhood Planning Unit D, capacity in which I've served for the last 17 years. I'm here to speak to you about CDP 23-9. You should have received an email from me about this over the weekend. I'm urging you to reject this CDP change. The application goes against the very notion of having a comprehensive development plan, as it proposes to change both the plan and the underlying zoning in order to afford a minor convenience to a single property owner in the face of overwhelming opposition from the surrounding community. The application proposes to change the future land use element of the comprehensive development plan in a manner that conflicts with other elements of the CDP. These include the designated conservation area in which the property sits, the stated policies of MPUD, and the local residential character of the street fronted by the affected property. Staff rationale for supporting this application is that the proposed change will fix a legal nonconformity. This is deeply disturbing in a year when we are both updating the CDP and rewriting the zoning code. Legal nonconformities are not problems in need of repair. They are elements of our urban fabric that enhance diversity of uses. This nonconformity was created intentionally to serve the public good before the applicant purchased the property at issue in full knowledge of its current zoning. He's done business on this site for roughly 20 years without issue. The public good would be disserved now if this nonconformity were done away with. I urge you not to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Our next speaker is Ms. Eva Nason. And if I mispronounce your name, please feel free to correct me in the microphone. Okay. You'll have 3 minutes. And if you could speak into the microphone for the folks watching at home.
can hold this too, but anyway, D4 Avenue is at the bottom. I think it's green. Howe Mill Road is all this pink, which is MRC2, changed recently from C1. And oh yes, I'm sorry. And Springer Street is this little street right along here. The property in question is this property that Jim Martin just spoke about. And as you can see, all of the gray is residential, is R4. The only lots that actually open that are not residential, they all open on D4 Avenue. Everything opens under D4 Avenue or Howe Mill Road that is not residential. I just wanted to show you that. Okay. I've lived in Underwood Hills since 1945 when I was 5 years old, and I handled zoning for UH from 1970 until 2010 or 2, and that was a lot of zoning cases through the years because the R4 residential area in Underwood Hills is a real island surrounded by commercial, industrial, and multifamily development. And I don't recall any case in all those years of doing that that would have been considered a worse case of bad zoning practice or have set a more detrimental precedent than this would. If we can't, I'm looking at the time here, if we can't keep the integrity of our residential zoning on our residential streets, then there's a strong feeling that we may be on a slippery slope to a very compromised neighborhood, which at this time is a very strong residential neighborhood, really full of families with young children. And I still have a minute, and I did not realize this was the CDP hearing until just about 2 hours ago today, and I'm not very good at speaking extemporaneously, so I haven't had really time to write out notes and so on and so forth. Anyway, we strongly hope that you will reject this. The vote was 98-6 at the NPU against this, and at our earlier in Underwood Hills Neighborhood Association meeting, the vote was 60-2 against this. And so how it is that the Zoning Review Board went against all of this makes us feel like the voice of the people counts for absolutely nothing, for the pure convenience of this one person to change the CDP and cause problems that we will go on having in years to come, I'm sure, if this precedent is set. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I know you, Ms. Nason, and you, Mr. Martin, so there's no voting on this particular item today. I believe the CDP hearing has already taken place. However, there's companion legislation that still needs to go through zoning before it comes back before this body for a vote. So this is, even though it's on the agenda under held items, there's no action taken on this particular CDP amendment today. So. Okay. All right, our next speaker is Kendrell Dabney. Mr. Dabney, you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, council members and people that out. I've come in lieu of a player that I played for Rambo back in the 70s. I've worked for the city of Atlanta for 30 years. I'm a retired fireman. And I guess what I'm saying is when you hit Anderson Park Field, when I was a kid, 10 years old, you had a place of safety. So, and Rambo gave us that place of safety. So it's right across from Turner High School where I went. But when I come down Anderson Avenue, I just want to see that Anderson Park is, I can always remember Rambo from that field. Because I know, like I said, he took care of me. He was more than a coach to me. He was a father to me. He was a mentor to me. So I just want y'all to remember him and, you know, put his name up there on the field. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dabney. All right, that concludes public comment for today. That takes us into presentations and reports. Our first presentation today, actually, colleagues, I recognize there's some folks from the family and from the community who are here for the renaming legislation. If my colleagues will indulge me, I actually would like to take that legislation first so that folks can get on with their very busy schedule. So we're going to put a pin on the presentations real quick. We'll take item number, I believe it's number 5 under It is item number 5, resolution or ordinance 23-0-1537. We'll take that real quick and then we'll move on with the rest of our agenda.
Item number 5 is 23-0-1537, an ordinance by Councilmember Byron D. Amos to rename Anderson Park to Coach Charles Rambo Senior Park to waive certain provisions of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances related to the dedication of public spaces within the City of Atlanta, which are not applicable where a dedication is initiated by the City of Atlanta and for other purposes.
And colleagues, we do have an amendment that was sent to you all, and that amendment as Councilmember Boone as a co-sponsor. I'd like to move to bring forth that amendment.
Second.
The second by, or I'm sorry, move to amend. There's a second by Amos. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Right, the item is amended, 5 yeas, 0 nays. Councilmember Amos, did you want to add anything or speak to anything before we take a motion?
Just motion to approve.
All right, I'll second. All those, oh, sorry, wrong meeting. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
All right, the item is favorable, 5 yeas, 0 nays. And I do want to acknowledge we've been joined by Council Member Keisha Shawn Waits. All right, thank you.
To know that I was late because I was stopped because I was using my phone while driving the vehicle. So my intent was to be on time.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Waits. We're just glad you're here for the record. All right, and to Mr. Rambo and his family, congratulations, and the next vote will be next week at full council. So, all right, that takes us back to presentations with the Atlanta Beltline Incorporated quarterly update. We have Clyde Higgs, CEO of Atlanta Beltline.
All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon, members of City Council. My name is Clyde Higgs, and I'm the president and CEO for Atlanta Beltline, Inc. And before I get started, I also want to acknowledge my colleagues, Jill Johnson, who heads up government affairs for Beltline, and also on her team, Bryson, as well, is in the audience. So I want to acknowledge them before we officially get started. Although this looks like a pretty heavy deck here, I promise I will be brief. I will just touch on these, and if you have any questions after the fact, happy to answer those. But want to start off with what we believe will be one of the most important acquisitions in Beltline history, and that is the acquisition of almost 14 acres in the Pittsburgh community. Formerly, or not formally, but a part of the Pittsburgh Yards development. And you may remember we actually developed this segment of the Beltline. This was the first segment of the South Side Trail with the intent of injecting some economic vigor and energy specifically into that neighborhood. And so very excited and working with the Casey Foundation for that acquisition. But this is all a part of the SSD. So you may remember in 2021, when you all, along with the mayor at the time, advanced the Special Service District. Ultimately, that gave us an extra $100 million for trail construction. And what that has done is given us the ability to be very aggressive on the land acquisition side of things. And so that's why we were able to redirect some of our dollars specifically on the affordable housing and commercial affordability side for Beltline. And then also, you may remember earlier this year, we also acquired, in partnership with the City of Refuge, a little more than 6 acres of land. This will be 350 Chapel Road. And again, for future housing affordability, this land acquisition strategy does not get enough attention and notoriety, but this is going to be very helpful to the long-term strategy, housing strategy for our city. We have essentially gone from about 20 acres of land that the Beltline controlled for future housing affordability to about 86 acres over the last 2.5, 3 years. And so that's a very intentional strategy for future housing affordability. And this is just a quick slide here. This is something that we were very excited about. As you know, there are a number of schools along the Beltline. And so in partnership with Big Tigger and V103, so Big Tigger shared a story with me some time ago where he said during the pandemic, he rediscovered outdoors, outside, and it saved his life. So he couldn't go anywhere, couldn't go into facilities, but he got on the Beltline, started riding a bike, and he said that saved his life. And so in support of that whole notion of making sure that our kids are getting outside, embracing the outdoors, in partnership with Big Tigger, we gave away over 100 bicycles, free bicycles, and also bicycle training to APS students in key Beltline neighborhoods. That was a very festive day. It was a little rainy, but still the kids had all these beautiful smiles on their face, and so very excited there. And also, Councilmember Dozier, thank you for recognizing the Beltline interns from this summer. So in support of the Mayor's Year of the Youth, they really got a kick out of you recognizing them here at City Council, and I think they had an amazing experience. They got paid as well, which always makes it fun. And so thank you for recognizing those young people that got that experience inside of the Beltline, working on a number of projects. And then real quick, many of you know that earlier this year we received our largest federal grant ever. That was $25 million to ultimately support the Northeast Trail. And so if you see what I describe as the WOW team, so this is Nakima Williams, Ossoff, and Warnock, they have been incredible to us in Washington, D.C. and advocating for Atlanta's project, the People's Project, and so very excited about that. We had Deputy Secretary Christopher Coase to come down and make the check presentation. Again, that will ultimately support the Northeast Trail. And then also earlier this year as well, we've had 3 groundbreakings for new Beltline trail segments. And so with the support of the mayor, we did the groundbreaking for what we describe as Northeast Trail Segment 1, which is, and I think some people affectionately call it the Piedmont Park segment of the Beltline from Monroe to Westminster. And we are actually about 4 to 6 months ahead of schedule on that segment of Beltline. So super excited that that's moving forward. And then also, as we try to have updated conversations with community, we continue to do outreach with various organizations to make sure that we're not talking to the same people with regards to Beltline. So one of the things that we did is partner with the Falcons, who are, y'all say it, what, 3-1, 4-1? Yeah, okay, all right. Trying to give them some credit there. I'm trying to give them some credit. But yeah, so work with the Falcons on the Beltline Bash, had a number of kids to come out. Freddie Falcon came out, and again, just as a way for us to have some new conversations with community that we typically don't talk to on a normal basis. And also, man, this feels uniquely Atlanta to be able to talk about hip-hop's influence on our great city. And so one of the things that we did for our last quarterly briefing is hosted a conversation. And for those that don't know, Zaytoven, who is a very well-known producer of a lot of artists in Atlanta and beyond, hosted this conversation about hip-hop's influence on our great city. And not only as the most popular music genre in the world, but what does it mean to Atlanta? Hip-hop is a $16 billion industry, and those things actually help people to get connected to Atlanta. So Atlanta, as you know, is a place for Fortune 500 companies to locate, but the reason they locate is because of workforce. Workforce comes to Atlanta because it's an amazing place to be. And so hip hop is not only a genre that we love, but it actually has a significant economic impact on our culture, our diversity, and why people gravitate to our great city. And on the grant side, we've been very busy, and again, want to shout out Government Affairs for leading a lot of those efforts. Again, for USDOT and the RAISE grant for $25 million. But our team also gave a significant helping hand to Trees Atlanta in the $10 million grant that they got from the Forestry Agency. And ultimately, that's going to help plant more trees, but it's also going to give our young people an opportunity to get skilled in these green fields. So landscape architecture, landscape technician. And so these will be specifically in some of the key equity areas for Beltline. And again, we have a number of slides to share, so I'm going to go over these very quickly. But the headline here is that by the end of 2025, over 80% of the Beltline will be completed or under construction. We have over 8 miles of new segments of Beltline in the queue right now. So by the end of 2025, over 80% of that will be completed or under construction, which is game changing for us. And so as I talked about the SSD in 2021, this is the aftermath of that SSD. We were able to play catch up, from a trail perspective, at the same time giving additional attention to affordable housing from a Beltline perspective. Southside Trail continues to move forward. We were excited to have one of our groundbreakings for Southside Trail segments 4 and 5 earlier this year. We expect for segments 2 and 3 to be let by the end of this year or perhaps the first quarter of next year. So lots of movement on the south side. That is important for folks that are watching this on TV, because ultimately this is going to connect the East Side Trail to the West Side Trail by finishing this South Side Trail segment of Beltline. Continue to make progress on West Side Trail segment 4. This is kind of the last remaining segment of the West Side Trail. We'll be finished with this in spring, summer of 2025, and this will be perhaps the longest continuous segment of Beltline, almost 7 miles of trail on the west side once we complete this segment 4. And also, Councilmember Dozier, we expect to let Anota Park later this year or perhaps the first quarter of next year. We continue to move that forward as well. Talked a little bit about Northeast Trail earlier. Again, we're ahead of schedule on that segment, which is just under a mile from Monroe up to Westminster. And also we will have a ribbon cutting on the 1st of November. If you're available to come out, for this will be for segment 2 of the Northeast Trail. And again, excited that is moving along. And segment 3 continues. We continue to make progress here. And again, this is the segment where we will put the $25 million USDOT RAISE grant to work. We hope to let that sometime the summer of 2025. There is a very deliberate process that you have to go through with GDOT and others. So this is as fast as we can move on this segment. But this is a key segment. This is where the Beltline is actually going to dive right into a MARTA station, and will also provide additional connectivity to other regional trails throughout Metro Atlanta. We continue to make progress, again, on the northwest side. One segment of the Northwest Trail, segment 5, is actually construction ready. So we anticipate that actually being finished mid to late 2025 as well. And all the other segments of the Northwest Trail are in design. Segment 1 will probably be finished the soonest, and we expect that to be shovel-ready sometime next year. And also, we had a very robust conversation about Beltline Transit. So earlier this month, October 2nd, we held a community conversation about Beltline Transit and our kickoff to our transit study that will cover a number of neighborhoods, not just the east, around the Beltline. And so just got some really good feedback from community. Again, that is a robust conversation. We're very aware of that. And but ultimately, as we make this a Beltline for all, that transit component is absolutely key. On the affordable housing side, again, we continue to make progress. We're almost at 3,400 units within the tax allocation district of the Beltline, with an additional 1,700 units that are just generally close to the Beltline. We don't count that against the 5,600 unit number. We use this 3,300 number to the right against the goal of 5,600 units by the close of 2030. But again, the star of the show is the land acquisition strategy, because for the benefit of our future city and long-term and deep affordability, perhaps even permanent affordability, controlling the land is so key. That allows us to get those AMIs, that area median income, lower, 60% and lower when you control the land. And here's a good example of what I believe is needed more around the Beltline from an affordable housing perspective, and that's a for-sale product. And so working with the Atlanta Land Trust, we were able to support 29 affordable townhome units in the Oakland City community, again, that people will actually own and can build wealth. This is another example of a permanently affordable opportunity off of Moreland and Memorial, and this is going to be the Ralph David House, and we are getting as low as 30% of area median income. This is more supportive affordable housing along the Beltline, so also excited that this is moving along as well. Our economic development organization continues to be very busy in supporting the thousands of businesses along the Beltline, and specifically reaching out to our minority and women-owned businesses to make sure that we are facilitating the generation of wealth, and again, that everyone is benefiting from the Beltline, from a small business perspective, from an affordable housing perspective, from the amenity perspective, and our team has been very intentional about working with our small businesses along the Beltline. And so we just launched a new effort. Think about this as our business accelerator, providing wraparound services to our small businesses along the Beltline. We selected 24 businesses in our first cohort, and many of those businesses were female-owned, and the majority were owned by people of color along the Beltline. So our organization received from the U.S. Department of Commerce, EDA, a $780,000 grant to support businesses along the Beltline, and our team has been very busy on that side. Our arts work has been very busy, and again, trying to have these unique conversations with community and hosting our ATL Park Jam along the Beltline. I was actually out there enjoying that as well. Some people saw me breakdancing, but that's another conversation. But if anybody wants to challenge me, I'm all for it. And then also this past Sunday, we hosted a very popular attraction, and that is the Walk with Little Amal. And this is essentially a 12-foot puppet, and this represents a Syrian refugee and how we should be welcoming to new people in our community. And so Little Amal was on the Beltline this Sunday with lots of fanfare. A lot of people came out and enjoyed that. And so that was a lot, and I am happy to stop and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Clyde. Before I turn it over to colleagues, just comment and then a question. Just the comment is, I think it was maybe 2 months ago, I was in a presentation, maybe it was on the Atlanta Beltline board meeting, where y'all were talking about the financials and investments with Anoda Park and all this stuff happening with the West Side Access Point. And I just thought it was such good news that I wanted to make sure that y'all got back out in front of the community, because in the almost 2 years I've been in office, the one thing, the two things I hear most about from the Westview community, one is what's up with Anoda Park, and number two is what's up with the Beltline Access Point on the West Side Trail. And the fact that y'all had such good news on both those aspects, I thought it was important to get back out in front of the community. And I will tell you, even though I wasn't able to stay for the whole meeting, just the feedback that I got after the fact, I don't think I've ever seen that much positive reaction or positive response from a public meeting. And since I've been in office or even before when I was active with MPUV. And so just want to give y'all a shout out and kudos for the hard work y'all been doing to get that project moving forward, and look forward to getting to a point where we're at a groundbreaking and a ribbon cutting. But I just appreciate all y'all's support and efforts on that.
Thanks for saying that. I got to give a shout out to the team, because that was also advocated internally as well. Because as we deal with inflationary challenges for all construction, we have to make some hard decisions about what we can actually afford. And Anoda Park kind of rose to the top of that. And again, you had some big advocates internally inside the Beltline organizations to make that happen.
Absolutely. And then my question that I had was with regards to the small business, the Beltline Marketplace initiative. Any lessons learned so far? Any opportunities for some of the existing businesses to maybe graduate and find brick and mortar with some of the commercial ventures that are coming along the Beltline? I'm just curious kind of what y'all have seen so far in the short time y'all.
Yeah, that's actually a timely question. So for those that don't know, we selected 6 businesses for Beltline Marketplace in the original cohort. And we learned a lot from that. And first of all, the program was oversubscribed. We had over 250 applications for 6 slots. And so this is essentially giving small businesses physical real estate assets on the Beltline. They get charged, I think it's $250 a month to be able to actually operate on the Beltline. So one of the things is, just the hours of operation and just making sure that our businesses are ready to be there from Thursday to Sunday, and just sticking with it. That's one of the things, that we need to work through as we move forward. But it was wildly popular. I know that Grady Babies is consistently out there, and they did amazing numbers. But we also realized that there's more foot traffic on the east side versus the west side. So making sure that we give businesses an opportunities to realize space on both sides of Beltline was also another key piece there. But they need a longer selling season versus what we initially contemplated.
Yeah, no, and just to add to the observation about the foot traffic and that, there are big differences between east side and west side. Something to consider as y'all are looking to activate the trail. I know we've done 5Ks and 8Ks and the Lantern Parade, but even other events that bring people out and make it a destination, so that while there might not necessarily be naturally occurring foot traffic due to brick and mortar commercial activity or residential activity, there might be some programming that ABI considers to bring more people to those areas, so that it's less of a gulf between what's the experience on the east side versus on the west side.
Agreed. Right. We'll continue to do that more, absolutely, on the west side. And we did some of that, and I know even during the Lantern Parade, some of the businesses did extremely well during the Lantern Parade. And also when we did our kickoff in August, there was just a number of businesses that just did amazingly well when we activated from a programming perspective versus just the natural foot traffic on the West Side Trail. So we'll definitely do that more in the future.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Lewis.
And Clyde, I want to say thank you so much for the work you've been doing.
Thank you.
You and both Jill Johnson, you developed a team that did not forget Atlanta. I know when I was first elected, I didn't know enough about the Beltline because I didn't understand the access points in District 12. Now to see one of the first things that you talked about today was the South Side Trail. To understand that the money that we need to complete the South Side Trail is already there. To look at the maps and to see, because 2 years ago,
Right, different story, right?
it was a totally different story before we were elected. To know that the South Side Trail would be complete before the North Side Trail is a huge thing for the South Side, because we know we were a priority. And Pittsburgh Yards being a priority and the purchase there, to see what you are going to do is going to be amazing, because I see you work with the community. Part of the reason that we like this partnership with the Beltline, that I like the partnership with the Beltline, is because, similar to how Councilmember Dozier just said, that the positive feedback from the community because you're listening. And so I hope that we're able to grow a little different in the district, because I can see the South Side Trail picking up if we can get a Punt City Market at Pittsburgh Yards, if we were able to use some of that stuff in a different range, because the people are there. We need something there to actually go into, so in activating it. Next, Lee and White, Pittsburgh Yard are both spaces that are game changers for the entire South Side. I want to say thank you again for that. And to me, and the notation, I want to make sure folks under the sound of my voice hear, the Beltline is your walking 285. The Beltline, and if you live in my district, the Beltline, the spurs of the Beltline are your 166s. And so you can legit walk around the entire city of Atlanta, never get lost, because you can get found back in your same place, similar to 285, and there are spurs like 166 that take you to different neighborhoods. The city of Atlanta is a group of cities, right? And so Oakland City was a city, Cascade was a city. And so the culture of each neighborhood is totally different. And so the Beltline allows you to feel the entire Atlanta. And so I want to say keep going, and whatever you need from my staff, from my office, because you made District 12 a priority. Whatever you need from us, we are fully open to.
I appreciate those words, and I will definitely share that with the team. That energizes them for the work that they do, but thank you for recognizing that.
And one last thing, I want to say thank you to Jill this morning, because today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, we opened up the stairs to the South Side Beltline on Pryor and University.
Absolutely.
And when I was first elected, I said, that's not the Beltline, because there were no stairs.
Right.
There was no way to get
Right.
there. I'm like, what are we talking about?
Right.
And so I'm extremely excited about that, and I appreciate you. The next thing about that portion is I'm looking at the maps, and stuff we don't see in our district. If we don't see it, we don't know. The bridge, can we get some color? Can we get some artwork similar to other bridges? Can we get something that say Beltline right there? I want to highlight it.
Okay, all right,
So,
noted.
I appreciate you.
Thank you, Councilman Lewis. Councilmember Winston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to just briefly say thank you to Atlanta Beltline Inc. Construction on segments 4 and 5 is happening right in the heart of my district, and we had some water runoff issues that were at the beginning of the project that affected some neighbors, but your team was very responsive in coming in and doing the mitigation and remediation in that area. And I've been very pleased with the amount of communication that they've had. And so just wanted to briefly say thank you for that. Construction seems to be going along very well now, and we hope it continues.
Right, no more heavy biblical rains, hopefully,
Yes.
right?
Yes, exactly. So thank you.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Thank you, Councilmember Winston. Councilmember Amos.
Mr. Chair, I actually found the answer to my question.
All right. Well, without any other questions or comments from colleagues? All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Higgs.
Thank you all very much.
All right. That takes us to our next presentation, Atlanta In-Town Cares. And just for the public's awareness, the In-Town team sent their whole starting lineup today. So you might see a couple of folks talking. So when you come up, just say your name so that the folks who are monitoring the camera feeds can make sure it gets out to the public.
Sounds good. Yeah, we had a fun event today, so we just decided to bring everybody, starting lineup. So my name is Laura DeGroat. I'm the Director of Food Programs at In-Town Cares. And as people kind of come up and whoever's speaking, they'll introduce themselves and what they do here at In-Town. But we are excited to be invited back, being able to speak to you. And I'm a new resident, Councilmember Dozier, of your district. So thanks. I just moved into your district last month. So happy to be here. So yes, we are In-Town Cares. We kind of two silos of our agency. We have homeless services and hunger relief services. So I'm going to talk about the hunger side. So just a quick update from when we were here last time. We talked a little bit about our food numbers, or I spoke a little bit about our food numbers. So we have, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. We have, or do I have that? I have that. That's exciting. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about In-Town before I dive into the food. We are a nonprofit that goes the extra mile to help In-Town Atlanta In-Town Atlanteans meet their most essential human needs, housing and food. Something that we both probably think about every day, but then don't necessarily think about every day. We specialize in helping unhoused folks who face major barriers make the transition to their homes, into their own homes. And we provide the easiest access to food for anybody who needs it. So a little bit about our food programs. From the last time we were here, we have been seeing an increase in foot traffic to our pantry that is located across from the Majestic Diner on Ponce. I just pulled our fiscal year 23 numbers, and every single month we saw an increase of over 100 new individuals that has never come to see our pantry. And by the end of fiscal year 23, that was over 200 new individuals every single month that we were open. We've also been seeing that trend continue into fiscal year 24, where we're seeing over 200 new individuals who have never saw our services at the food pantry. So a little bit about our food pantry is we are one of the largest low barrier food pantries in Atlanta. And what I mean by low barrier is that we believe that we believe people deserve to get food when they need it without having to explain why they need it. So when people come to see us and they're hungry, we're going to give you food. We're not going to require documentation. We're not going to require zip codes. We're not going to require proof of income. And so we have seen a lot of people seeking out our services because they are restricted from other locations, whether that's visits per year, whether that's income restrictions, whether that's zip code restrictions, whatever that might be. We don't put the burden on other folks that come to see us. We also have a grocery delivery service in which we partner with Amazon, where they are able to provide drivers for us to get folks food from their houses. So whether that means they don't have the time to physically come and shop and get groceries from us, or they might be homebound for whatever reason, they're able to still get deliveries. And so a little snapshot of fiscal year 23, we are averaging 500 unique households served by our pantry every single week in the city of Atlanta, and also Metro Atlanta. We have people that are driving from Austell, some people are driving from all over the city and beyond. So we also have over 230 unique households receiving weekly grocery deliveries from us. We deliver to 4 different senior high-rises. We also have, when our homeless services side houses, did I do that? Oh. When our homeless services side houses folks that were recently homeless into housing, they immediately get added to our delivery list so that they have one less thing to worry about when it comes to finding food. And so in 2022, we provided food for 409,745 whatever meals for folks. And then our total pounds of food distributed in fiscal year 23 was 497,176 pounds. I just like to round up and say 500,000, close enough. And then in June of 2023, an exciting milestone for us is that we served our 1 millionth meal since the pandemic began, which was huge for us. And then I did want to acknowledge, before I pass it off to my colleague, Princess, that we have just received notice of the City of Atlanta's CDBG CV award notice of $215,855, in which we are so excited about that. So we also recently received a capacity building grant from the food bank, in which we were able to purchase a 16-foot box truck. And so with combination of the box truck and with this recent notice of funding, we're really going to focus on hopefully hiring a delivery driver. where we can utilize our truck to pick up more donations more often, whether that's from the food bank or other opportunities, get more food into our pantry more often so we can get more food out of our pantry more often. And then we're hoping this is a good foundation for hopefully soon expansion and hopefully a new building, whatever we might be able to do so that we can increase our services and not be confined with our current space constraints. So we are very excited and very grateful for that award notice. And with that, I will pass it to my colleague, Princess.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I was here in August and I gave an update on how InTown does our 5-step process. So for members that weren't here, I'll go ahead and give that brief overview. InTown is in line with the Housing First model. This initiates stability and we handle other personal obstacles after they are moved into housing, and this is not a precondition to work with them. Our first step is to engage. We do this all throughout the city of Atlanta. Our case managers are in the woods, they're in encampments, they're on the streets. They're building rapport, building trusting relationships with the clients in order to enroll them, which is our second step. Once that rapport and that trust has been built, we will enroll them onto our caseload. This will open up various different case management supportive services that we will be able to utilize based off of the project they are enrolled in. And our third step is navigate. We do this all throughout this process. We are continuously helping our unhoused folks navigate throughout various different supportive systems, networks, partner organizations, making sure they understand what their expectations are and their responsibilities. Our fourth step is to house. We also do this in partnership with various different entities. We have the LIFT project right now that we are working with, and we are housing our individuals through the Rapid Rehousing Program. We utilize the Georgia Housing Voucher as well as other voucher programs through Atlanta Housing, and we also refer some of our clients to permanent supportive housing, and some of our clients are self-sufficient and will be able to move into their own housing solutions on their own. Our fifth step is to support. We also do this all throughout this process. Our case managers are continuously supporting our clients throughout various different areas that they're focusing on. We saw the need for this once we house individuals, that support just doesn't stop once they're housed. A lot of individuals need additional support systems and resources and referrals. Some individuals have never lived on their own. They don't know how to navigate through that process alone. They're living outside of their support system and networks. Some people are living in Morrow, some people are living in Forest Park, and they're not used to living on their own. They're not used to living within four walls. And so we provide additional supportive services to those folks. Some numbers on our impact. In 2023, we have engaged over 1,000 Atlanteans experiencing homelessness. We have enrolled and navigated 353 neighbors towards housing. We have placed 281 individuals into their own homes, and we have provided housing supportive services to 80 formerly unhoused clients. That slide is not there, but in August, we housed our 1,000th neighbor. And as of October, we are at housed 1,048. An update on our LIFT numbers. We have housed through the Rapid Rehousing Project is about 90 individuals. Some of those individuals have recently rolled off and have moved into permanent supportive housing solutions or various different voucher programs, the Georgia Housing Voucher, and also various different voucher programs through the city of Atlanta. Where we're headed, we have been awarded new funding through PATH. Our agency was selected through a competitive statement of need process conducted by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities Office, DBHDD, which was concluded on July 31st. This was the first time this process has opened in about 10 years, and InTown was awarded funding that is renewable for 5 years to provide services through SAMHSA's projects for assistance in transition from homelessness, otherwise known as the PATH program. We will now be one of the teams focusing on DBHDD's Region 3, which covers Clayton, DeKalb, Fulton, Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale counties. In addition, we were awarded funding through the City of Atlanta's 2023 Notice of Funding Availability. The Department of Grants and Community Development announced its recommendation of funding for our ESG Homeless Outreach and Navigation Services project. This has been approved by the Office of the Mayor and adopted by Atlanta City Council. In addition, we also have added another partnership that is located in East Atlanta Village. Shortly, one of our case managers, who is also our team lead, will speak more about that project. He will be focused in East Atlanta Village and providing case management services there. We want to give a special thank you to Councilman Al-Bakhtari for making this happen, in addition to Councilmember Westmoreland's office, fundraising efforts of East Atlanta Community Association, and the city administration. And I will introduce Michael Nolan, who is going to be providing the case management services there. He will be able to give you a brief overview of what he's seen, the work that he's doing, and more information on that project.
Good afternoon, Council. Michael Nolan, team leader with In Town Cares and newly embedded in East Atlanta Village. I have been a resident of East Atlanta since 2018, and I joined the In Town team in 2020. I began holding office hours in East Atlanta Village to address some of the uptick in incidences of appearances of homeless encampments and evidence of addiction and other issues that EAV has been experiencing. I started office hours there twice a week in February of this year. Since then, I've engaged dozens of neighbors experiencing homelessness in EAV, and to date, I have enrolled, as of this morning, 28 of them into case management with In Town. The first client I enrolled, the very first day I started working in EAV, was document ready for housing in 32 days. If you're not familiar with that process, document ready means they have a birth certificate, state ID, social security card, a current TB test, and a HUD-McKinney, which is a statement of disability for those who do have a qualifying disability. That process can take as many as 6 months on average for every time we have to have someone document ready. Document ready is a requirement before someone is eligible for entrance into the housing queue in the Atlanta COC. So that is an absolute necessity as a first step. This client was document ready in 32 days, and in 3 months was fully approved and ready for his apartment. And he is in that apartment today. Now that word is getting out, a lot of the people that I was working with who were completely resistant to the idea previously, they want some of that. They want what this guy got. So they're coming to me saying, what do I have to do to get that? And as I stand here today, half of that caseload of 28 is document ready for the Atlanta COC. So they have overcome the very first major obstacle toward getting a housing solution. Building trust, rapport, and respect with one person in a community. That is where it starts. One relationship leads to more. That is the foundation of In Town's model, that 5-point model that Princess talked about a moment ago. I am really, really excited to be able to bring my specialties in addiction counseling, trauma-informed care, harm reduction, and crisis intervention to the table. One of the things I'm looking forward to most about this partnership is the series of educational opportunities that we will be bringing to our neighbors, businesses, and stakeholders. I'm ready to bring information and education to the area that will help the community of East Atlanta, my community, become more compassionate and effective supporters for their unhoused neighbors. Thank you.
Katie Farmer with In Town Cares. I just a couple of other details about the East Atlanta Village partnership, and then we'll have time for questions. So East Atlanta Village is a pilot program that that came to us from the East Atlanta Community Association, and Councilmember Bakhtiari's office. A very invested neighbor actually brought all of the appropriate people to the table. I don't know what happened. Brought all of the appropriate people to the table, and we were able to get this partnership started. Like Michael said, he's been working in the neighborhood since February. He has been funded to work exclusively in the neighborhood since Monday of last week. And so a lot of the off-book work that he had already been doing with clients rolled onto his caseload immediately. We're thrilled to see where this partnership is going to lead and the model that it can create that we hope will be scalable and replicable in in neighborhoods around Atlanta. We know there's already interest. Councilmember Bakhtiari has gotten calls from all sorts of people already, and we are excited about this pilot, and we'll be looking next at how to fund an expansion like this that can be scalable and replicable across the city. Currently, our homeless services team has 15 on-the-ground case managers, and once this PATH grant goes through, we'll be expanding that to 18. And so, part of the plan is to continue to work with our partnerships at Partners for Home, who support a lot of the street outreach funding in the community, as well as state funders. And we're thrilled to be overlaying local community money to help end homelessness in these specific communities.
Thank you. Sorry, we're talking some technical stuff.
No worries.
Related to this, actually. Any questions or comments from colleagues? I do have, Councilmember Lewis, you go ahead.
Man, when I just heard you speak, and I was looking at you the entire time, the passion that was coming from you, and I know you know how to do it. Whatever's going on. And I learned some today about the 6-month process to get folks document ready. My question is, and I know you are dedicated to East Atlanta Village currently, right?
Just under this one funding stream. We work throughout the city of Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so do we have people like him all over the city of Atlanta? I know it's probably hard to get that, but do we have somebody that we train? Do we train somebody that got a little bit of what you got in them?
Yeah, we have 5 positions that are currently funded to work in specific subpopulations or areas of the city. And then the majority of the rest of our team is currently funded through the Lift 2.0 project through Partners for Home. And the current prioritization of that project is encampment homelessness. And so our team of case managers that work under that grant are helping to end homelessness in those identified encampments around the city of Atlanta, identified by the business community, the city and state government, and GDOT. And so those prioritization areas have been very intentional for Partners for Home. Part of the reason why this opportunity in East Atlanta Village was such a great idea and pilot for us is because we know that encampment homelessness is not the only kind of homelessness, and that there has been a rise in homelessness in Atlanta over the last year. The point-in-time homeless count numbers came out a few months ago, and there was definitely an increase in unsheltered street homelessness. And so the more case managers we can get embedded in a community and working long-term with those high acuity clients, the more impact we're going to have. So the neighborhood specificity of the EAV partnership is the new pilot for us, and we're really thrilled to see how it's already working 10 days in.
No, and I have one on Cleveland Avenue and Macon Drive, and I know we've been bringing up that same exact encampment. It's new. It's a new encampment of the last 2 years. So the state doesn't recognize it. Don't nobody recognize it, and I know we can actually help folks. And the city of Atlanta, we've been known for not kicking out poor people. That's why we're such a great city. You can be me and grow up and be a council person one day. And so I don't want to kick out folks in the city, but I need this kind of assistance on the south side of the city. And so I don't know how I can work with you. I just found out you have a partnership with Partners for Home, which means that I can figure out a way, but we have new encampments popping up in my district and Councilmember Winston's district that didn't used to be there in Lakewood. And so I know that if we get in now on the ground, we can actually bring some folks back into society the right way.
Yeah.
So thank you for your service.
Absolutely. With our new funding streams through PATH and through the City of Atlanta ESG funds, we're going to have more flexibility to work nimbly throughout the entire city rather than being held to specific prioritizations. And so be in touch with us because we're ramping up our flexibility as we speak.
I'm going to figure out how to get in contact with y'all. Don't worry about it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewis. Any other questions or comments from colleagues? Yeah, thank y'all so much for coming out. All right. All right, that takes us to the next item on the agenda, which is communications. Before we take that, did want to just make a quick comment with regards to the public comment that we had earlier. I know there was some discussion with regards to an item that is currently held that is requiring some zoning legislation to be able to move forward. I do want to just to restate for the public that state law actually drives how public comment works for zoning items. So just for y'all's awareness, this zoning procedures law, the zoning review board is actually the form in which those sorts of public comments are considered. And so had I been on my A game, I would have said something to that effect during the public comment portion. However, just wanted to reiterate that this is not a public hearing. We're not going to be taking those sorts of things, those comments even for items that are on the agenda for voting matters. The zoning review board hearing is the forum, the correct forum for those sorts of comments. So just wanted to clarify that for the public. Moving on, that takes us to communications. For both those items, neither of those individuals are here for those appointment hearings, and so if my colleagues would indulge me, I would like to take items number 1 and number 2 as a block. Seeing no issues, Mr. Evans, if you could sign a caption. Actually, so I do have a colleague that does have an issue, so we will not take them as a block. We will take them individually, but you can sound item number 1.
Item number 1, 23C 5105, a communication from Tanya Greer, County Clerk, to the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, submitting the appointment of Ms. Cora Dunston to serve as a member of the Atlanta Beltline Affordable Housing Advisory Board. This appointment is for a term of 2 years.
And just a quick clarification, we can take them as a block, so you can go ahead and sound number 2, and then we'll take those, accept the motion. Go ahead.
Number 2 is 23C 5106, a communication from council members Jason Winston, District 1, Amir Faroki, District 2, and Michael Julian Bond, Post 1 at large, appointing Mr. Steve Tellis to serve as a member of the Atlanta Urban Design Commission. This appointment is for a term of 3 years.
All right, colleagues, just to reiterate, neither of those individuals are here today for various reasons. So I'll go ahead and move to hold both those communications. Second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Oh, all right. I rescind my motion.
Okay.
And then, so we are going to take them separately then. Are you Ms. Dunston by chance?
Yes, I am. So fast, I couldn't quite keep up.
So we've already sounded the caption, so let's do this. Since we already sounded the caption for, how does that work parliamentarily? We've already sounded the caption for number 2. We'll okay. So with that being said, Ms. Dunston, thank you for joining us today. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in this appointment to the Beltline, or the reappointment to the Beltline Affordable Housing Advisory Board, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you very much, and thank you, all of you on this committee. It's been quite interesting watching from when this first started. We got here early, and I've seen and heard things I never imagined. You're doing a great job, and the people that's been here presenting today have given me a different perspective as to the depth of things that people are doing here in our city. My appointment or reappointment to the Beltline Affordable Housing Advisory Board is a position that I cherish, and I would like to continue in that endeavor. My background is in construction, historic preservation, and with that background, it gives me another perspective as to how you go about doing things and making things better for all of us. So with that said, if you have any questions, I won't linger in my statements. I see some of you that I know here well, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them to the table.
Thank you. Councilmember Waits, followed by Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. It's wonderful to see you here this afternoon. I did not see you in the rear. Ms. Dunston and I had the opportunity to serve on the Atlanta Women's Commission at its inception, I think in 2009 or something like that. But I think that you will be an amazing addition given your background and your expertise. And I just want to thank you for your 3 decades, 30 years of service to our city, as well as your husband and all that he did to improve our great city. And so I am grateful to see that you'll be serving on this board, and I'm thankful for your many years of mentorship and friendship. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
And I have a question about I'm always talking about affordability of the Beltline. I just talked about it being 285 and having spurs, but I need to make sure that the folks that on this commission are holding the line on making sure that affordable housing is actually coming. And so I would like for the conversation, because the Beltline is our Greek Coliseum, right? That is our beach. I know it's beachfront property, but when developers come to the Beltline, they gotta build. They gotta build it. I think we have to start talking about 40% AMI and holding the line, not going up to 70%, because people can't afford 70% in the city. 70% of your income going to your housing it makes you poorer it's not good for people. It's hard to survive in that way. And so my question is, not my question, my comment is that as we move forward, making sure we're holding that line, not going above 40, 50%. Understanding that the federal government has a 30% amount, and we can do that on our beachfront property if we want to.
Well, I like the way you're saying that beachfront property.
That's our beach.
And here we are inland, but it's a good way to put it. We are an advisory board and we make recommendations. That's it. And when we make the recommendations, those recommendations from where I stand hold water. And we need people like you and others involved as we make the recommendations, act on them.
Thank you.
I appreciate your fervor and your your statements, and I have your number.
I don't play with them folks, do I?
No, you do not.
Thank you, Councilman Lewis. That sounds like a motion.
Oh, so moved.
And Herbert Grin tells me Councilman Waits would like to second that. Let's go ahead and open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, the motion carries. Congratulations, and thank you for your continued service to the city of Atlanta.
Thank you very much.
All right.
We need a motion for 23C 5106 to hold.
Yes, I'll go ahead and move to hold that item. Second by Lewis. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
All right, the motion to hold is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. All right, that takes us to ordinances for first reading, number 3. Mr. Evans, if you can sound the caption.
23-0-1571, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta Department of Parks and Recreation to accept a reimbursement grant from the state of Georgia under the Improving Neighborhood Outcomes in Disproportionately Impacted Communities Grant Program, funded through the American Rescue Act via state fiscal recovery funds in an amount not to exceed $2,032,301.70. In accordance with Section 2-910 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, and authorizing an amendment to the fiscal year 2024 grant fund budget to anticipate and appropriate the reimbursement of grant funds, and authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to accept and authorize use of grant funds from the state of Georgia and for other purposes.
That item was for first read, so no action will be taken. That takes us to ordinances for second read. Item number 4, please sound the caption.
23-01535, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to execute a storage area lease agreement with Newport 235 Mitchell Street LP, a Delaware limited partnership, for approximately 468 rentable square feet of storage space located at 235 Mitchell Street, Atlanta, Georgia 30303, for the Atlanta City Design Studio, commencing on the commencement date of the storage area lease agreement and ending on March 31st, 2027, at an annual rental rate of $4,680.00, waiving Article 10, Section 2-1546 of the Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, authorizing the expenditure to be charged to and paid from the accounts listed here and for other purposes.
And colleagues, there's a request from the administration to hold this item, so I'll go ahead and move to hold. Second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
The item is held. 5 yeas, 0 nays. We've already taken number 5. That takes us to item number 6, ordinance 23-0-1538. Mr. Evans, you can sound the caption.
It's an ordinance by council members Michael Julian Bond, Matt Westmoreland, Keisha Sean Waits, Jason Winston, Amir Faroki, Byron D. Amos, Jason Dozier, Alex Wan, Dustin Hillis, Andrea L. Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, and Antonio Lewis, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to accept the donation of a historical marker from the National Collaborative for Women's History Sites and National Votes for Women Trail for the purpose of installing a suffrage centennial historic marker at Washington Park, to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute any agreements necessary to effectuate the acceptance of these donations and for other purposes.
All right, colleagues, Department of Parks and Recreation is not here to speak to this item, but they have no concerns or no issues with it. But I did want to give my colleague, Councilmember Amos, an opportunity to speak to it if you had anything to add.
Motion to approve.
All right. Motion by Amos, second by Winston. Please open the vote.
The vote is open, and the vote is closed.
All right, the item is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. That takes us to item number 7.
23-01539, an ordinance by Council Member Jason Dozier authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Workforce Development Agency, also known as WorkSource Atlanta, to accept a Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act adult program grant in the amount not to exceed $143,074.00 from the Technical College System of Georgia, Office of Workforce Development, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY24 Job Training Grant Fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the amount not to exceed $143,000.00 and for other purposes.
All right, we have Dr. Serena Walker with the Department of Labor and Employment Services. Good to see you, Dr. Walker.
Good afternoon, Chairman Dozier and members of the committee. I am here today to ask your approval to accept the funding for the adult citizens. This is the first of 2 allotted grants from the Technical College System of Georgia to be appropriated to us for this fiscal year. This amount is for $143,074, and it is purposed to provide workforce training and internships and apprenticeships and career services to adults 18 and older in the city.
Any questions or comments from colleagues? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and move approval. Second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open, and the vote is closed.
Item is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. That takes us to item number 8, I believe.
23-01550, an ordinance by council members Mary Norwood and Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $20,000.00 from the District 8 discretionary fund account to Park Pride to support Friends of Beaver Brook Park and for other purposes.
All right. There's a motion to approve by Westmoreland. I will second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, the item is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. Next item.
Council members, there's a substitute in your packet for number 9. Changes the caption.
Thank you. And colleagues, just to add to that substitute, they also addresses some discrepancies in the dollar amount within the paper and within the parenthetical numerals and the words written alongside it. So that's what's in the full substitute. I'll go ahead and move to bring forth the substitute. Second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
The motion to bring forth the substitute is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. Please sound the caption.
23-0-1554, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston as substituted by Community Development and Human Services Committee, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute an amended secured note between the City of Atlanta and PEP Development LTD, LP, to forgive the unpaid remaining balance of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Home Investment Partnership Program loan with PEP Development LTD, LP for the construction of improvements on certain property known as Kings Manor Apartments located at 869, 875, 855 Capitol Avenue, 863, 865, 867, 871, 875, 866, 872, 876, 882, 886, and 890 Cruz Street, and 28, 34, and 38 through 40 Ormond Street, Atlanta, Fulton County, Georgia, in the amount not to exceed $511,500.00, conditioned upon the payment by PEP Development LTD LP of the outstanding accrued interest under the note currently totaling $2,398.22 and for other purposes.
All right, we have Director Genevieve Jones for the Department of Grants and Community Development. Welcome.
You. We have some loans that we're trying to forgive at this time, contingent on them paying the interest that has accrued under this note.
I do have a quick question on that. How often, I mean, this is the first time I think I might have realized we've done loan forgiveness. How does that typically look, and what conditions lead to the department?
It depends on the actual grant. So for the home grants, the affordability period has to be in place, as well as they had to have been making the payments on the interest during this time. So really depends on whether it's a CDBG loan, or a home loan, and they each have their own designations as part of the CFR for those.
Any other questions or comments from colleagues? Councilman Lewis.
How often do we do this?
It varies. Honestly, for the home program, we are just now getting back to expending funds as it relates to this program, so this may come up more frequently, but it really depends on what types of loans we are providing. So most of the funding that we do give out are as a grant, so it typically wouldn't have that. But for most of the affordability period, we have to make sure that there's a lien associated and things of that nature. So it just varies.
Thank you. Any other questions? There's a motion to approve by Winston, second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, item is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. All right, next item, number 10.
Number 10 is 23-0-1555, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Winston authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute an amended secured note between the City of Atlanta and PEP Development LTD, LP, to forgive the unpaid remaining balance of a U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Home Investment Partnership Program loan with PEP Development LTD, LP for the construction of improvements on certain property known as Kings Manor Apartments located at 869, 875, 855 Capitol Avenue, 863, 865, 867, 871, 875, 866, 872, 876, 882, 886, 890 Cruz Street, and 2834 and 38 through 40 Ormond Street, Atlanta, Fulton County, in an amount not to exceed $300,000.00.
Colleagues, just a point of clarification, forgot to mention this when we took the last item, but items 9, 10, and 11 are all related to the same property, so the captions are very similar. They're just tied to different nuances with those particular ordinances. And so any questions that you have for Ms. Jones are related to all three of those items. The only reason why we're not taking them as a block is because there's some different parliamentarian maneuvering that has to happen with each item. So the last one had a substitute, this doesn't. So I just wanted to clarify that why you see the same location come up on 3 items in a row. So with that, any questions or comments from colleagues? This one? Motion to approve by Winston, second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed.
All right, the item is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. Next item, and colleagues, I know Mr. Evans will say it, but I'm gonna try to beat him to the punch. Item number 11 has a substitute, and that substitute addresses some discrepancies in the dollar amount within the paper, and once again, between the parenthetical numerals and the words written alongside it. And so I'd like to move to bring forth that substitute. Is there a second by Westmoreland? Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, the motion to bring forth the substitute is favorable. The substitute is before us. Mr. Evans, if you can sound the caption.
It's an 23-0-1556, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston, substituted by the Community Development Human Services Committee, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute an amended secured note between the City of Atlanta and PEP Development Ltd. LP to forgive the unpaid remaining balance of a U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Community Development Block Grant loan with PEP Development Ltd. LP for the construction of improvements on certain property known as Kings Manor Apartments located at 869, 875, 855 Capitol Avenue, 863, 865, 867, 871, 875, 866, 872, 876, 882, 886, 890 Cruz Street, and 2834 and 38 through 40 Ormond Street, Atlanta, Fulton County, Georgia, in an amount not to exceed $835,114.16, conditioned upon the payment of PEP Development Ltd. LP of the outstanding accrued interest under the currently totaling $297,964.46, and for other purposes.
Okay, any questions or comments on this one from colleagues? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and move to approve on substitute. Second by Winston. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
And the item is favorable on substitute, 6 yeas, 0 nays. Thank you so much, Ms. Jones.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes ordinances for second reading. That takes us to resolutions. Item number 12, please sound the caption.
23R4249, a resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept an anti-displacement grant with the Rocket Community Fund for the purpose of providing property tax assistance to City of Atlanta homeowners and for other purposes.
And colleagues, just to ask for this item to be filed. It will be reintroduced as an ordinance at the next full council meeting. So I'll go ahead and move to file. Second by Amos. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
The item is filed. The motion to file is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. All right, that takes us to item number 13. Mr. Evans, you can sound the caption.
23R4250, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate a total amount not to exceed $2 million and 0 cents to Star Sea Corporation pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter to support administration of an eviction diversion program for low-income City of Atlanta residents, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into any necessary agreements to effectuate the donation, to authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to make the donation authorized hereby from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
We have Josh Humphreys, Senior Advisor to the Mayor, to speak to this particular resolution. Any questions or comments from, actually, I'll let you go ahead and talk to it, and then I'll open the floor for questions. Go ahead.
Yep.
No.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Josh Humphreys. So I've got the next 4 papers, so I'll be up here with you for a minute. This paper allocates $2 million to Star Sea. We're really excited about the opportunity to create this. This follows the allocation to the Housing Trust Fund last week, where we set aside some funding for eviction aversion. We found a partner on the ground that can, really the goal of this is to help residents that are really on the fringe of being evicted, and to intervene and to work. This builds on Star Sea did really great work during the COVID era emergency rental assistance program. So this builds on some of the best practices and lessons learned, candidly, throughout all of that, on how we can best help residents and landlords really avoid eviction and allow for some housing stability. So $2 million of down payment in this. It's not going to solve all of our pressing eviction needs in the city, but we think we can help a lot of residents with this, and so excited to get this started.
All right. Any questions or comments from colleagues? Councilmember Westmoreland.
No question really, more than a couple of folks called about this very sizable amount of money. And so I wanted to mention on the record that the city went through an RFI process that helped us land at this donation.
Yeah, that's correct. So there's a kind of process through procurement to get information from potential nonprofit developers, or not developers, sorry, I talk housing too much, but nonprofit partners that could do this. So they were selected after submitting kind of what their plan would be and how they could best use these funds.
Move approval.
There's a motion to approve by Westmoreland, second by Winston. I do have a quick technical question. So typically when I see eviction response efforts is framed in under language of eviction defense, and typically when I see the word diversion, it's used in the context of arrest diversion or police diversion. Can you talk about what eviction diversion means from an operational standpoint?
Sure. Yeah. So you may recall last year we worked with several of you and Councilmember Bakhtiari, most specifically an AVLF to stand up a pilot program, which was like an eviction defense in a lot of ways, and focused on pro bono legal defense and otherwise. One of the big things that we've learned is that really this is an upstream issue, right? The further upstream you can get, the more likely it is that somebody gets to stay in their home and avoid that. And so it's really moved more to an eviction diversion. So we really want to get, before we get to an eviction filing, before you end up having to get a lawyer and go to the courts, can we divert that situation, find mediation, and allow for housing stability to happen? Yes, there will be situations when we have to get further downstream on that, but the idea is to divert them before you have to get to the point of defending.
Thank you. All right, there's a motion to approve by Westmoreland, second by Winston. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
That is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. Next item.
Item number 14, 23R4262, a resolution by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate a total amount not to exceed $200,000 and 0 cents to Open Doors Solutions, Inc., pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter to support identifying and placing low-income Atlanta residents into safe, affordable, and secure housing units, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into any necessary agreements to effectuate the donation, to authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to make the donation authorized hereby and from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Humphreys.
Yep. So this paper would donate $200,000 to Open Doors. You may be familiar with Open Doors. They do housing placement work. So we worked with them on Forest Cove. They were the folks on the ground that went out and found the actual available housing units for tenants to move into. So they're on the front end of the process. This is really a result in a lot of ways of gearing up to launch the Housing Help Center. So we've got the staff in place. We're gearing up for a launch later this month of the Housing Help Center. And one of the initial needs that we've identified is residents who come in and say, hey, I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight. I've got a week to find somewhere else to live. I don't know how to find something that I can afford. And this contract will allow us to begin addressing those needs really kind of in the short term, so that residents that don't know, or they've got until the 31st to figure something out and they don't know where something for $800 a month or $1,000 a month or $400 a month could exist, that Open Doors, that's their job, is helping find that. So that's what this would help do. It brings them in and allows folks that come into the Housing Help Center to get them the help they need.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from colleagues? Councilmember, go with Lewis and then. Oh, Councilmember Lewis.
I was going to ask, is this only in Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet's district?
No, this would be for anyone who comes in.
Okay, so a second after him.
Motion to approve by Westmoreland, second by Lewis. Councilmember Lewis, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Item is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. Councilmember Lewis, you got something to add?
And similar to the In-Town Cares, how do I access the organization that is now receiving funding from the city of Atlanta to house folks in District 12?
So the Open Doors contract will be in partnership with the Housing Help Center. That is staff. There's got representative down in Greg Clay's office down on the first floor, and we'll have staff here. So when residents come in, I would direct them to the Housing Help Center once that launches later this month, and then they'll be able to access these resources through that.
Okay, so
they'll connect them with Open Doors, yeah.
So when they reach out to me, just send them right there.
That's right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewis. Next item.
Item number 15, 23R4266, a resolution by council members Matt Westmoreland, Alex Wan, Amir Faroki, Andrea L. Boone, Antonio Lewis, Byron D. Amos, Dustin Hillis, Jason Dozier, Jason Winston, Keisha Sean Waits, Marcy Collier Overstreet, and Michael Julian Bond, authorizing the city of Atlanta to donate a total amount not to exceed $150,000.00 to the Atlanta Land Trust, Inc., pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter, to administer 21 permanently affordable home ownership units for low and moderate income Atlanta residents, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into any necessary agreements to effectuate the donation, and to authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to make the donation authorized hereby from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Humphreys.
Yeah, so this paper, really excited about this one. This was a zoning condition that a percentage of the for sale townhouses at a project directly across the street from the entrance to the new West Side Park. There's a big townhouse development happening there, and a set aside of those through the zoning condition was for some of them to be affordable. The property owner and developer is partnering with the Atlanta Land Trust, and these funds will allow the Land Trust to come in and ensure that it's not affordable just for the first buyer, but it's affordable in perpetuity. But there's some administrative costs to ensure that's possible, and so these funds will allow that to happen without the administrative costs being passed on to the affordable buyers that otherwise they'd have to cover that cost. And so this intervenes and makes sure these 21 affordable housing for sale products can stay that way forever.
Questions or comments from colleagues? There's a motion to approve by Westmoreland. I'll second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
All right, the item is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. And that takes us to, last but not least, item number 16. Please sound a caption.
23R4267, a resolution by council members Matt Westmoreland, Amir Faroki, Antonio Lewis, Andrea L. Boone, Dustin Hillis, Jason Dozier, Jason Winston, Keisha Sean Waits, and Michael Julian Bond, requesting that provisions be included in the funding agreements for any residential housing development receiving financial incentives from the City of Atlanta, requiring the disclosure of all fees that a tenant will be responsible for paying that are in excess of the rental rate prior to the acceptance of the application fee or any other fees from the potential tenant, requesting that provisions be included in such funding agreements requiring financial incentive recipients to engage in mediation with tenants subject to eviction proceedings for non-payment of rent 30 days prior to commencement of the eviction process, requesting that provisions be included in such funding agreements requiring projects that do not receive project-based rental subsidies from the Atlanta Housing Authority, DBA Atlanta Housing, to make available units for households utilizing tenant-based rental subsidies and for households utilizing any of the other forms of documented income or rental assistance, requesting that the Atlanta Development Authority, DBA Invest Atlanta, Atlanta Beltline, Inc., the Fulton County Development Authority, and the Metro Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority adopt policies requiring that such provisions be included in the funding agreements for any residential housing developments receiving financial incentives therefrom and for other purposes.
Mr. Humphreys.
So this paper, I know it's a mouthful to listen to. This paper does three key things. One, it calls on the existing funders of any affordable housing really to raise the standard on them and make sure that that happens. So the next thing would happen is their boards would then vote on setting these new standards in place. The standards that it moves on here are around source of income. So there was a paper that the committee voted on and City Council passed last year around tenant-based vouchers, like very specific housing choice vouchers. This expands that and says all sources of income should not be a reason that you deny access or approval to housing. It includes provisions for an eviction diversion, and mediation space, that if you're receiving public dollars, that you'll create some space to do mediation. And this pairs really closely with the Star C paper that you just voted on, that we're creating a program. We know that in order to do good eviction mediation, you've got to have funding for emergency rental assistance and mediators that can help with that. So setting that program up alongside this, we think will help facilitate positive and productive mediation and avoid eviction in these properties. And then the last one is around junk fees that's in here. So the junk fees is a challenge that was raised by the Housing Commission, Housing Justice League, and others over the last several months. And it's really an issue where you'll see, okay, you come in, you're applying for an apartment, it's a $150 application fee, it's $1,200 a month rent. You sign the application fee, and it's a non-refundable thing. And then you find out, well, it's $50 for the trash and $75 for your key to get into the thing and $40 for there. And then you got a recurring fee for this. And all of a sudden it's $1,400, $1,600 a month rather than the $1,200. And you're like, oh, I can't actually afford that. But it's a non-refundable application fee that you lose out on. And so this is just saying, hey, before anybody pays any application fees or otherwise, you've got to disclose all costs related to the apartment, not just the actual lease amount, really to help add awareness and opportunity for residents to make the decision that makes the most sense for them. So those are the three things that it adds in place, and we think that this and really partnering with our, but city funds, but also from Invest Atlanta, Atlanta Beltline, Atlanta Housing, Fulton County Development Authority, and others, like having that partnership to say, hey, if you're receiving public money, this is our expectation on these fronts. Will help ensure that tenants get the best opportunity to succeed in that housing.
Councilmember Waits.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. There are very few things that we disagree on here in this body, but this particular paper means a lot to me. It speaks to the needs of the working families and individuals who are experiencing challenges. One of the greatest expenses that you're going to have is lodging and housing, and so I'm very grateful for the work that was done on this particular paper and extremely proud to be a part of this. And there are a lot of things that we can disagree on, but this is one of the papers that means a lot to me personally. And so I thank this body, I thank the administration, and for all of the work that was done surrounding this conversation. Thank you.
Sounds like a motion. Councilmember Westmoreland.
I'll second Councilmember Waits' motion and then add a comment just for the public record. The third thing that Mr. Humphreys just spoke about in terms of adding additional time to go through a mediation process before starting an eviction process. I want to call it out. It is literally adding more time, right? That's what we're doing. And so I am sensitive to landlords and apartment owners and the burden that they feel during an eviction process. But when entities are getting public money to help build their projects. And when we are setting aside starting with $2 million for an eviction diversion program, I appreciate the concept that is a part of this paper, that is, eviction is bad. It's bad for everybody. And so when you're taking public dollars, there should be an additional layer before you can move someone out of a unit. Not only that, we're setting aside $2 million to help fix this problem so it doesn't lead to an eviction, period. So I just wanted to kind of frame all that and say it out loud. And second, Ms. Waits' motion.
Hey, Councilman Westmoreland, and I just want to add too what I appreciate about efforts like this, and just I know Councilmember Bakhtiari helped lead the way with regards to the tenant protections and making sure that for folks on housing choice vouchers, they weren't being excluded in public subsidy projects. I appreciate the city is willing to throw its weight around a little bit and encourage our jurisdictional partners in Invest Atlanta, Atlanta Beltline, and MARTA, and Fulton County DA to also take on the mantle and ensure that it's not just the city doing this work, but it's all of us together to make sure tenants have protections across not just the city, but across the metro region. So I appreciate the administration's leadership, city council's leadership, and all of us working together to make that happen. Councilmember Lewis.
And I just also want to say that the Councilmember Keisha Waits, your fight on eviction, your fight on getting involved in what would duly be Fulton County's responsibility, to me is also a huge driver on this. And to see the minds all come together and come up with a way to be crafty enough to hold folks accountable is the real group project. And so I want to say thank you to Councilmember Keisha Waits for all the time. And the reason why I want to say that is because your time serving on the State House is probably how you know that all of the different governments had to get together. But thank you so much for pushing this.
All right, so we have a motion on the table by Waits, second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Item is favorable, 6 yeas, 0 nays. Thank you, Mr. Humphries. All right, we have no dual referred. Actually, just a comment on this particular item. This is a dual referred item, and it will be on the agenda for Finance Executive Committee tomorrow at 1:30. So just wanted to clarify. And then we'll do that in general. So we have no dual referred items. That takes us to papers held in committee. We have no items coming off of held today. Then that takes us to no walk-in legislation, no requested items. General remarks. Councilmember Waits, did you want to? Oh, I mean, I can speak to that. Colleagues, I just want y'all to be aware that former Atlanta City Council member Vern McCarty passed, I believe, last week or earlier or before the weekend. So we just want to acknowledge his passing and want to just share that his family and his loved ones are on our thoughts and in our prayers, just as we know his contribution to this body was significant. I believe he served on the city council for 8 years, and so we just wanted to acknowledge that his passing and more information to follow about his service. Councilmember Lewis.
I just want to make sure we alert the public to last week was Roselle fans' homecoming, and we had our teams over at Anderson Park and hopefully the new Rambo Park, in which we were able to compete and have a lot of fun. This week will be Pittman Park's homecoming. And so these are two different District 12 organizations that are celebrating themselves this week. And so I'm super excited. Anyone that's looking out, this week will be the return of homecoming at Pittman Park for the first time in a long time. So I'm super excited to have people come out. We're reaching out to the band at Carver High School. So McDaniel Street, get ready for a parade. Let's go.
All right. And then just the last thing that I wanted to share is just I know many of our communities a couple of weeks ago suffered through some pretty significant and extreme flooding that took place, particularly on the west side and in downtown and in Atlanta University Center. in response to that, and in collaboration with my colleague, Councilmember Winston, and also Councilmember Amos, both the Community Development and Human Services Committee and the City Utilities Committee will be hosting a joint work session next Thursday. That work session is really to talk about the city's efforts to combat stormwater challenges that we've been experiencing. I know last week or 2 weeks ago was really significant, but that's not the first significant flooding event that we've had in the city in recent years. And so we're going to be talking about what we've done so far and what the path towards a more sustainable future that doesn't displace our city residents and what that looks like. So that'll be 1 o'clock here in Committee Room 1, and that will be publicly noticed pretty soon. But you ought to be aware of that joint work session that will be happening next Thursday. Councilmember Waits.
The Atlanta Pride Parade will be held this Sunday, and so I know a number of us will be participating and have vehicles in the parade. So I want to encourage everyone to come out, and also to those that would be visiting our city. And lastly, want to thank all law enforcement for the amazing job they do in helping us to wear our seatbelts and stay off our cell phones while driving. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Waits. With that, I'll go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.